Hey guys, coming in for Ash vs. Evil Dead, Season 1, Episode 2, Bait. And I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Last week's premiere was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It really seemed like this was going to be a great show, and this was another really great episode. In fact, I think this episode, I'm not going to say it was better, but it had some stuff that the first episode didn't, and it really showed that this is going to be great as a 30-minute, because, you know, last week's episode was 45, this week's episode was 30 minutes, which was perfect. I felt like it went by really quickly. I was into it the whole time, and this is going to be a really great show. You can definitely tell, and some people said this kind of felt like this belonged with the pilot episode, and yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, it basically continued right from where the, first episode left off, and if you were to put this, together, I could definitely see it as one big premiere, and next week actually starting the show. I could understand that perfectly. Let's get into this episode. There's actually quite a lot that happened in this episode, and there's a lot to talk about. We start off right where last week's episode left off. Ash, Kelly, and Pablo, they're in Ash's trailer, and Ash informs the two that the evil entities they encountered are called Deadites. And by the way, guys, I forgot to say, remember that speech that Ash gave to Pablo about the Deadites and everything? They did use that in the beginning, which is awesome, because I said that they should use it in the beginning, and they did use it, and that's perfect. You know why that's perfect? Because anyone that hasn't seen Ash, Evil Dead before, they can just randomly put on an episode of this show and know exactly what's going on, and I love that. I mean, that's why shows like this, The Flash, Arrow, yes, they have things that go on previously, but you can just tune in the next season and know kind of the basic premise, which I definitely like seeing. I mean, you can skip like an episode, and I think they did a very good job with that. So I like that they use that. But basically, we start right where the first episode left off with Ash, Kelly, and Pablo in Ash's trailer. And apparently the show doesn't really have much of an intro. Really it doesn't, but Ash informs the two that the evil entities they are encountered are called Deadites, and he'd like to get the Necronomicon, aka the Book of the Dead, translated by an expert to figure out a way to stop the Deadites. Now, who this person is, again, we don't know who this person is that he's going to see. We know that there's someone that can read the book, and we don't know who it is, but we'll have to figure it out. And Kelly tries to convince Ash to go to her home, as she believes her dead mother is Deadite, and her father is in danger, because, he was the one that brought it up, and she says, if her mother's Deadite, she wants to make sure her father's okay, because her father is helpless, we see in this episode. So he declines. He actually doesn't want to help them, because, that's how selfish Ash is. I mean, that goes perfectly with his character. Ash would want to save the world. Ash would want to figure out what's going on with the Deadites and why he did this before he could help out Kelly. And I think he does want to help her, but he has other things he needs to deal with first. He has kind of a world to save. So Ash goes outside to do some maintenance on his trailer, and with his back turned, a Deadite version of his boss, Mr. Roper, creeps up behind him, and before it can attack, Kelly speeds off on Pablo's motorcycle, and the Deadite creeps back into the shadows. Pablo runs out of the trailer, calling for Kelly, but he's too late, and you can tell right away that Pablo and Kelly are having a connection. In fact, Ash even refers to Kelly as Pablo's girlfriend, so you can already tell these two are most likely going to get together. I see, give it a couple episodes, and I wouldn't be surprised if these two are together. So Ash lets Pablo know that this hasn't changed his plans to have the book translate. He still wants to go there, but then Pablo informs him that Kelly took the book. So Kelly is 2 steps ahead of him, and Kelly is awesome, I have to say. Especially in this episode, Dana DiLorenzo is really killing in the show. She's able to really combine the emotion and humor very well, because let's face it, she really seems to be kind of like the not moral compass, more like emotional core to this series, because that's just something we haven't had, and I like the way they're doing that. So Kelly took the book, so basically they're forced to go with her, and Pablo knows the way to her family's house. Ash is forced to go after her in order to retrieve the book, and that's just awesome, the fact she took the book. I love that. So on their car ride, Pablo asks for advice on fighting Deadites, while Ash is he's literally admiring, like, his hair in the rearview mirror, which is pretty funny, and Pablo says that he trusts him because he's the Hefe, which, yes, guys, I pronounced that wrong, it's pronounced Hefe, and Mr. Roper appears in the backseat, attacks Ash. Pablo tries to come to Ash's aid by picking up an empty beer bottle, smashing it on Mr. Roper's head. It has no effect, and the struggle ends once Ash picks up the new broken bottle, stabs Roper's neck repeatedly, then sticks Roper's head out the driver's seat window as an oncoming car decapitates him, and you can tell that they are definitely trying to make this as much as a classic Evil Dead movie as possible, because let's face it, like Evil Dead 2, for example, they were just deadites every 5 seconds, and that's exactly what this is, and I love that. But there is time for story. They do a really good job of combining the action, story, and the comedy. They did that very well here. So, luckily, they decapitate it, and we do get stuff with Amanda in this episode. We do see that Amanda arrives at Ash's trailer park, and she's getting there. She definitely is getting there. This very much reminds me of The Walking Dead, when we had Morgan going to, you know, I don't know if they're trying to make reference to that, but it seems like one of those kind of things where she finds clues and then she's eventually going to meet up here. She arrives at Ash's trailer park and is conveniently provided with information from Ash's neighbors that links him with the Deadite woman she encountered in the pilots, and she then finds a Books from Beyond business card for the book expert Ash wanted to go see, and they're definitely going to meet up in the same place because she wants to find the person that has the book, and now Ash wants to as well. So they're definitely going to meet up at some point. I don't know when they're going to meet up, but this definitely you know, is foreshadowing that these two are going to meet up very, very soon. So, Ash and Pablo arrive at Kelly's house. Before they enter, they try to prepare for what carnage they might encounter inside, because, you know, they're pretty much think they're going to face a Deadite, and really funny stuff there. Of course, Ash has the boomstick ready, and they bust through the front door, and are not surprised, and are basically, Kelly, her dad, and her mom are all fine. Her mom's not even dead, surprisingly, and I thought this was actually a pretty good twist. We see that Kelly's mom had amnesia and has spent her time living in homeless shelters, and apparently she's now just remembered who she was and came home. It's a great story, but that's simply what it is. It's a story. It doesn't sound plausible, and Ash isn't buying any second of it. I mean, it doesn't sound true. It sounds like bullshit. It really does. I'm not surprised that Ash didn't believe this. I mean, it doesn't sound plausible. It just doesn't. So Ash isn't buying any minute of this. He knows it's not true, and he knows that there's more going on here. So back to the trailer park, where we go back to the trailer park, and more police have shown up, and a sketch of Ash is shown to Ash's grumpy neighbors. Amanda takes a look at this sketch and is then ordered to leave by her commanding officer, and obviously it's not safe for her, so she has to get the hell out of there and leave, and we'll have to see what happens with that. But I feel like a lot of people are going to go meet Ash, because the fact that Ash just abandoned his trailer is great. He abandoned his trailer, they're going into his trailer, like he didn't lock his trailer or anything. That's totally something Ash would do, is not lock his trailer, or just let anyone in his trailer. I mean, for all we know, a Deadite could get in there and just, like, tear his entire trailer up. His trailer's probably going to be destroyed when he comes back, but it's actually pretty funny, because that's just something that Ash would do, and I love that. So, basically, back to Kelly's house, Ash and Pablo are inside of his trailer, and Pablo confesses that he took the Book of the Dead, not Kelly. He lied to Ash because he wanted Ash to help him with Kelly's situation first, and that is a twist that I really like. The fact that Pablo really wants to help Kelly. I really like this teaming of Ash and Pablo, because, you know, Pablo seems to want to care about others, while Ash seems like he wants to do what he needs to do first and then help out the person, which works very well with his character. But I think Pablo is very good because he's like Ash, but he's definitely more caring and cares more about other people, which I like seeing. And Ash cares about other people, but obviously he still doesn't really want to help them. He still kind of just wants to do his own thing, and they're just tagging along. That's kind of what it is right now. So, because remember, Ash really doesn't want to save the world right now. He doesn't really want to do any of this. He wants to find the guys, you know, that, the guy who made the book, and then he's good. So, he wanted to get Ash to help him with Kelly's situation first. Ash tries to convince Pablo that Kelly's mom is probably a Deadite. He doesn't buy 1 second of her story, and Pablo isn't so sure that that's true. You know, he pretty much believes her story, and Pablo seems like he's going to be someone that's just too trusting of people, and it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. So they head back inside Kelly's house to have dinner with her family. Ash grills Kelly's mom, convinced that she's a Deadite, and the tension is really thick, and you can tell that it just doesn't sound plausible. Her mom is acting really suspicious. She's acting really off. She's acting like she's hiding something. And when you act like you're hiding something, that definitely is a clue that they shouldn't believe anything you say. And her father, you know, in the meantime, is completely defenseless. Like, he can't say anything. She's not letting him talk. So again, that's another sign. And the tension is thick. Then Ash says he has one more question for her, and that is when he is gonna slug her, she falls to the ground. Kelly gets in his face for assaulting his mom, and that was just awesome stuff there. I love this. And then during the commotion, Kelly's mom rises from the floor, and she is a Deadite. And I love that we found that out, because at first I thought they weren't going to go in that direction, but no, she is a Deadite, and they play the classic Evil Dead music, which is awesome. I love that. Kelly's dad approached his Deadite wife and is greeted with a fork to the eye. He's dead right there. I heard Dad was an idiot. He was. He was an idiot, and we knew he wasn't. I mean, did we really think Kelly's dad was going to make it? He was an idiot. He was a pussy, he was an idiot, and we all knew he was going to die. I thought that was pretty funny, that he just died with, like, a fork to the eye. I mean, you see how Kelly's affected by this, but it's meant to be funny. So Ash quickly gets out his chainsaw and his stump, turns it on. He then aims his boomstick right at Kelly's mom, fires off several shots. He misses. When he goes to reload, he loses sight of where she went. Ash checks on Pablo, who is shaking with fear. Pablo has clearly never dealt with something like this before. You know, he doesn't really know how to handle this situation. He says he's okay, but has no clue where Kelly went. He's obviously very scared for her. And again, I think this is another sign that Pablo and Kelly are probably going to hook up. I mean, they just keep showing it, like, scenes like this. So we then head upstairs, where frantic Kelly locks herself into her bedroom, though she's not alone in there. Her Deadite mom is sitting on Kelly's bed, and guess what she's singing? Remember in Evil Dead 2, with, Hush Little Baby, don't remember that in Evil Dead 2? They do it again here, and I noticed the reference right away, and I love that. I love the way they're subtly paying homage to Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead. And, you know, they can pretend that Army of Darkness happened. Army of Darkness happened. Again, they're just never going to talk about it, because people keep wondering, wasn't Boomstick an Army of Darkness thing? Yes, it was. They just can't explicitly state the details that happen, which I do kind of like, because, again, there are two different endings in Army of Darkness, so the ending is really up to our interpretation, and I think it's really good that they did it that way, so that way it's kind of like, you know, whatever you want to happen is the ending that they went with, and I really like that. So, Ash and Pablo then burst through the door. Kelly tries to convince them that her mom isn't completely evil, and Ash knows better than that. He knows not to trust her, and and I like Kelly's reaction here, because, you know, she, again, doesn't fully understand Deadites, and you need to understand that. She doesn't fully understand Deadites. She's not an idiot. She just doesn't really understand how Deadites work, and Ash knows that her mom is pretty much gone. Obviously, he's had to kill people before. He tries to cut her in two with his chainsaw, but it gets stuck in the wall. The Deadite leaps onto Ash's back, tries to wrestle Ash's gun away from him. Pablo comes off the sideline, stabs the Deadite in the head, but that only angers it, then pulls a knife from its head, approaches Kelly, and I really didn't know what was going to happen in this scene, and it was actually pretty intense, I have to say. And Pablo and Ash gets the chainsaw started just in time, sticks it into the Deadite, as then cuts off her head. And when what Ash said there was just great. The way he was like, well, that's how that ends. I thought that was just great the way he does that. Ash very much says what the viewer is thinking, and that's awesome. I love that. So he got the Deadites, and then it's now daytime, and Kelly's parents have been buried in her yard, and we get that great line where Ash talks about how he wanted to bury them, but then Kelly says that she's Jewish. I mean, great stuff there. Really funny stuff like that. Really subtle lines like that. That's why I love this show. Pablo and Ash tell Kelly that she should join them on their quest now that the Deadites have ruined her life. And of course, you know, she wasn't planning on joining them. She was only going to stick with them because of what happened to her parents. But now that the Deadites have died, her parents are gone, you know, the Deadites have ruined her life. She's like, all right, fine, I'll go with you. So now they're going on this quest together to not only save the world, but find the owner of the book. And now the show has actually really started, which I think is really good. But then we get a bit of like a pre-credit scene. We see Amanda standing outside the Books from Beyond store, walking up to its entrance, and she's gonna get there before Ash does. So we're gonna have to see what happens with this, because she's definitely gonna find this author before Ash does, and I think it's gonna be very interesting to see the way they handle this. But overall, guys, a great episode. Really loved this episode. I thought it was actually quite amazing, definitely, particularly from Dana DiLorenzo. I mean, just the way you really do see how much this affected her, and how Kelly doesn't fully understand what's going on with the Deadites, and that's understandable. I mean, she, again, is just, everyone really is new to the Deadites except for Ash. Ash is the only person that's seen these Deadites before. And, of course, the person that wrote the book, but other than that, Ash is the only person that's ever experienced something like this. So just seeing Ash teach them things is really interesting. I definitely really like seeing that. The Deadites as well, they looked awesome in this episode. And, of course, Bruce Campbell is just great here. No, Ruby really at all in this episode. We didn't really get any of her. Ruby, I think her name is, you know, the Jill Marie Jones character, you know what I'm talking about. What's her name? I can't think of her name right now, but the girl that knows more about, knows about the Deadites and things like that. She was not in this episode really at all, so we'll have to see what happens to her. What is gonna happen with Amanda? Is Amanda gonna get there before Ash does? I feel like they're gonna arrive very close to each other. They're eventually gonna team up. You know that's gonna happen. They're definitely setting up a team up between them. We'll have to see what happens with that. That's gonna be really awesome to see. I hope that those two do eventually team up, because that's gonna be awesome if they do. I can't believe how much. Yeah, Ruby. That's the character. I'm pretty sure that she knows what's going on with the Deadites. Like I said that last week, but I still think that's true. Um, but again, guys, awesome episode. Really loved it. These reviews are probably gonna be as short as my girl meets world reviews, because I'm talking about a half an hour show here. It's not as complex. It's not the most complex show ever. But overall, guys, loving this show. Thought this was another really solid episode. It really proves how great these half-hour episodes are gonna be. Let me know what you guys saw this episode, and we'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for my next video. What's it gonna be for? It's gonna be for a movie review, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.